Um, we're in the realm of speculation yet again. This quote speculation prediction has been kicked around for the last several years now. There's been a bunch of sort of false rumors. Oh, on Easter, this April, this date, the fraternity of Saint the FSSPX is going to announce the consecration of new bishops, um, and those dates that have been predicted have come and gone. Now, there are certain facts that are true, that are on record, right? There were 4 bishops consecrated by Marcel Lefebvre in 1988. They were all relatively young at the time. One of those 4 was expelled from the Society of St. Pius X. Bishop Williamson is no longer servicing their faithful. So they're down to 3. 2 of those 3 are, well, they're all 3, obviously, um, you know, almost 40 years older than they were in 1988, right? So they are getting older. They are certainly getting, more frail. They cannot live forever, right? And they cannot necessarily continue the grueling schedule that they have. Again, a diocesan bishop travels around his diocese, maybe a couple hundred miles at the most. They are traveling the globe, confirming, ordaining, taking care of religious orders. I remember once when I ate with had a meal with Bishop Fillet. I said, "How do you like?" He'd recently moved to the seminary. How do you like living at the seminary? And he laughed. He said, "I don't live at the seminary. It's a place I stop to launder my clothes and take a day rest before boarding the next plane." And again, it's a grueling schedule that these bishops are on, and you cannot, carry that on at a certain point in life. So it is certainly inevitable that the superior general will have to reach a point where he says this is pragmatically not sustainable with these 3 bishops. As one or more of them pass away, that becomes even more critical. So will they have to look to a consecration of a bishop? Yes, at some point, obviously. When that is and how soon that will have to be is an interesting question. So, what has come out this last week is a letter through the official French distribution channel, Le Port Latin, of a letter to friends and benefactors of the District Superior of France. Now, each District Superior, usually once a month, writes a letter to friends and benefactors, as does the Superior General, just sort of talking about a spiritual topic, what's going on. This one, specifically being written for June, speaks about the anniversary of the consecrations in a cone. And it's really actually a beautiful letter if you can read French. It talks a lot about the current state of traditionalist movement, the difficulty of the kind of the next generation of tradition who have grown up with tradition, who didn't have to fight for it, who didn't have to fight in the 70s and 80s and even early 90s, and that the challenges that presents. Really some really good um, things in there. But the paragraphs that have drawn attention, kind of roughly translate, the District Superior of France, Father Monsieur l'Abbé Benoit de Joran, says, as I said earlier, the 30th of June, 1988, Archbishop Lefebvre completed this Operation Survival, which Archbishop Lefebvre caused it, of traditional Catholics in consecrating 4 auxiliary bishops. These bishops, who, as I said earlier, who were then very young bishops, is evidently 36 years later, the situation in the church is, essentially deteriorated, is even worse than it was in 1988. It is necessary at some point to appoint aides to them who would become at some time their replacements. Like the aides, I'm not quite sure if he means they'd be appointed bishops, they would assist them, or they just be priests who would kind of be in training. It's a little ambiguous, but I think he means kind of auxiliaries to auxiliaries, who would eventually succeed them.
Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt the video, but I did want to promote our paper. We don't just make videos online, we try to be the intellectual backbone for traditional Catholicism. And in the March issue, we talk about everything from Cardinal Newman's view on the Antichrist to Irish monasticism. So, if you want to subscribe to the paper, go over to CatholicFamilyNews.com or just use that link in the description.
He says, when that decision will be announced by the Superior General. Now, he doesn't give a date or anything, but he kind of says it as a fact. The French, lorsqu'une telle décision sera, will be annoncée par le supérieur général. So he almost, again, he doesn't say it explicitly, but it almost sounds like he knows this is coming and when it will be announced. It will uh, bring about declarations of intrigists, rebels, schismatics, he's disobedience, all the things they call it, Lefebvre. It will happen more than more than this at this moment. Um, we will face these contradictions, these injuries, be rejected. Perhaps there'll be ruptures and among people. And he's sort of saying the virtue of being strong is what we'll have to look to. So it is almost like he is preparing people to receive this news that when this happens and all this great hubbub, we'll have to be strong and faithful. Again, this is the letter of Monsieur l'Abbé Benoit de Journois, the Superior General of the District of France, who I believe I've read has been announced is actually stepping down, as being replaced by a new Superior General later in the summer. So this does seem to confirm, at least tacitly, the rumors that there is thought at the district, at the level of superiors, that this may be nearing a day when it has to happen. We do know from the clarification put out the last time, I think, that when they do this, they will seek the approval of Rome, as did Archbishop Lefebvre, like we were talking about with Archbishop Vigano. I think these superiors, Dom David Baglioni, Superior General, will certainly attempt to follow the principles of Archbishop Lefebvre. He will not just announce a consecration. I think he will request permission from Rome. If it is unjustly denied, I think he may, proceed accordingly, but he will certainly go through the process and attempt to obtain a mandate, is again my prediction. But I sense my reading of this letter in full, which again, if you can read French, you can find on the Port Latin, is that we may be approaching. And perhaps it's interesting because he talks about many people coming to their chapels. If they were to move now, I think I would see it coming shortly after, if July 16th is the date, but this final suppression. Because what I do know the superiors are deeply worried about is having chapels inundated and not having the priests and bishops to service people. So if more masses are shut down, we've already seen a big influx of people, that even more would come and they'd be unprepared. So I think my prediction might be that if Rome does move hard against the mass, that may accelerate any timeline they have for the appointment of bishops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a complicated issue, and to any of our watchers, any fellow lay people who are like, "Well, what am I going to do about this? What does this matter to me?" I'll tell you, you have a very important job.
Yes.
This is going to cause distress to people around you. It's going to cause distress to yourself. I mean, this is going to cause conflict. It's necessary conflict that's happening. Firstly, you need to get solid on your principles. That means reading your catechism, right? We need to all read our scripture, go to mass frequently, support your priests, read principles, right? Read Archbishop Lefebvre's books like Religious Liberty Question, his open letter to confused Catholics. All of this stuff has happened before. We're not going to deal with any new issues. All of this stuff is repetition at this point. Nothing new is going to crop up. Something I'm sure Brian can tell you more about. Angelico Press has a great book coming out soon. You can talking about the history of the traditional movement. You can see that a lot of this has happened over and over again, that and we have to do what our fathers in the faith did, these heroic people who didn't have the same material goods that we have. We have extreme material wealth in some circumstances. When you have places like St. Mary's, Kansas, with the new Immaculata Church there, many times we actually, the old saying is, they have the buildings, we have the faith. Well, now we have the buildings and the faith. In many cases, we have great churches, we have great So we have to be grateful. We have to be grateful for our traditional fathers that came before us. Let's not abandon the mission. Let's keep close to that faith and not compromise on anything. Stay close to our principles, understand our principles, and stay faithful to them.